So first, a confession. I have a very sensitive sense of smell, and so I can chronicle my entire life with the sense that I've smelled, be it a person, an object, or a place. And so I'm definitely not alone in this. Helen Keller, who could neither see nor hear, once said that smell is a potent wizard that transports you across thousands of miles in all the years that you have lived. Smell is a very powerful sense, and it's the one that's most closely tied to our emotions. About 2% of our genes are dedicated to olfaction, which is a lot by genetic standards. The closest we have are a set of genes for immunity, which are critical for our survival. But I believe that we don't have a way to communicate or at least visually realize our sense of smell. And so the connection between smell and memory is what I am exploring in a project called Smellbound. So as an experiment, I obtained these pieces of paper with micro-encapsulated smells printed on the paper, kind of like the scratch and sniff that we know of as children. And I've been getting people to smell these pieces of paper, and when they do that, I ask them to recall the memory that comes to mind. For example, this particular memory, it reminds me of going to the dentist, having a hand placed in my mouth, getting braces in the 6th to 8th grade. Teeth started to hurt smelling this. Can anyone guess what this is? Plastic gloves, close. So I had him smell burnt rubber. So I was very curious as to how visceral people's memories were, especially because they were counting memories of a particular memory that only happened once many, many years ago. And so we're going to do similar to what I've been doing to these people. Take out your sense kits and take out the red envelope. And on that envelope, you will find a postcard with a particular printed smell, and I invite you to smell it. It's not labeled, so you have you can guess what they smell like, and you guys all have different smells printed on it, and try to remember what it was that the smell reminds you of. So similar to you guys, I've done the exact same thing. I've been smelling things, and I've written and published a book called The Olfactory Memoir of 3 Cities. So in this book, I published the smells of the cities I've lived in, so Manila, New York, and Barcelona, so I could smell each city if I missed them. So each spread in the book contains the memory on the left and the printed smell on the right. And if you want to check this out later, just let me know. So the next thing I want to talk about is poetry. Now, I'm a poet and I love poetry, but when I see poems like this, sometimes I wonder if it's very one-sided and kind of inaccessible. If you don't like poetry because it's very abstruse, I don't really blame you. And so, when I want to look at a different access point to poetry, one of the things that had a lot of impact on me was joining the Poetry Brothel in Barcelona. So it's a group of poets that each poet takes on the guise of a particular character. And during an event, you could choose a poet who will read poetry to you. So poetry to me became a sort of conversation. So it's not just about me standing here and reading a poem to you while you guys listen and then go on your merry way, but instead you could talk to me about the poem, you could ask me questions, and that for me was very interesting. So the question here was, can I find another access point to poetry? And so when I was looking at things that might be potential candidates, I came upon something that might be far more interesting. food. So this is what my friends and I are exploring in a project called Eat Poetry. What we do is we take a poem and we interpret it into a dish. And you read the poem while your guest would eat the food that you prepared. So taste is a very intimate and social sense. It might be difficult to have an opinion about a poem, but it's easier to say whether you like a particular food or not. For example, for The Emperor of Ice Cream by Wallace Stevens, it might be very difficult to understand the words or maybe what the poet is trying to say. But if you pair that with actual ice cream, then you create a tangible association with the poem. And so we're going to do a TEDx version of this. Take out your sense kit once again, and then remove the candy stick, the apple-flavored lollipop, which I hope you didn't eat. Uh-oh. So the poem I'm going to read is inside the green envelope, which you don't have to look at right now, but it's something for you to take home later in case you want to read again. So I'm going to read part of a poem, and I want you guys, at least for those who are interested in eating candy, it's kosher. And while you're eating the lollipop, I'm going to read the poem to you, and you could close your eyes, you could look at me, look at the friend next to you, it doesn't matter. So the poem I'm going to read is After Apple Picking by Robert Frost. My long two-pointed ladders sticking through a tree toward heaven still, and there's a barrel that I didn't fill beside it. And there may be 2 or 3 apples I didn't pick upon some bough, but I am done with apple picking now. Essence of winter sleep is on the night, the scent of apples I am drowsing off. I cannot rub the strangeness from my sight I got from looking through a pane of glass. I skimmed this morning from the drinking trough and held against the world of hoary grass. It melted, and I let it fall and break. But I was well upon my way to sleep before it fell, and I could tell what form my dreaming was about to take. Magnified apples appear and disappear, stem end and blossom end, and every fleck of russet showing clear. My instep arch not only keeps the ache, it keeps the pressure of a ladder round. I feel the ladder sway as the boughs bend, and I keep hearing from the cellar bin the rumbling sound of load unload of apples coming in. For I have had too much of apple picking, I am overtired of the great harvest I myself desired. There were 10,000 fruit to touch, cherish in hand, lift down and not let fall, for all that struck the earth, no matter if not bruised or spiked with stubble, went surely to the cider apple heap, as of no worth. One can see what will trouble the sleep of mine, whatever sleep it is. Were he not gone, the woodchuck could say whether it's like his long sleep, as I describe its coming on, or just some human sleep. After Apple Picking, Robert Frost. So, what just happened there? When I do this to people, I ask them to write down their memories, their reactions to the poem. Sometimes they scribble things. And what I've discovered is that sometimes they get very creative with recreating the entire poem, writing down their comments. Some of them even write their own poetry, which is great because I now see that poetry can be two-sided. It can be a conversation, it can generate more poetry. And sometimes, even if this is all they had to say, at least that association between the poem and the food was created. You might not remember the words to After Apple Picking, but at least you'll remember that here you were sucking on an apple lollipop. I will see you guys again later. Thanks very much.